there was some conversations that was being had across the board, right? To bring y'all up to speed, Trump has been implementing reciprocal tariffs against China to the tune of about 145% right now, because China had reacted and they said that they was going to raise it to 125%. So China said, we not scared, but then at the same time, they have not reacted to Trump's tariffs, in which he basically went to 145%. Now, this is setting off all kind of disagreements, right? You see, listen, every single platform, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, I am being flooded with Chinese people on my timeline talking about, we don't need American products because I don't have American products in my home. Or some other propaganda where Chinese people are saying, oh my God, this is really devastating. Or other people saying, well, look, these are how Nike's is made. And so y'all was getting fake products anyway. I am being flooded, absolutely flooded with Asian content about what it is that we should and shouldn't be doing inside of the United States of America. So the first thing that I want to say is be careful. Be careful with what you consume, because there is a lot of information out there and a lot of people are trying to influence the United States of America, Americans, to do what they want to do on a global scale. Let's get into it and let's deep dive, and I'm going to give you all the latest of what's going on with the tariffs.
Out of the escalating trade war with China and those mixed messages from the White House, President Trump is now signaling new tariffs on
electronics. I always like to present information from different platforms, and then we're going to break it down from our own perspective and in our own words.
After carving out exceptions last week, senior political correspondent Rachel Scott is at the White House. Good morning, Rachel.
George, good morning to you. And this one has sparked a lot of confusion. The Trump administration putting in place exemptions for some electronics like smartphones and laptops. But now the president suggesting that those are only temporary and that even more tariffs are on the way. This morning, White House whiplash. Just days after excluding smartphones, computers, and other electronics from the new steep tariffs imposed on China, the president suggesting those exemptions are temporary. On Air Force One, the president asked about the mixed signals.
There's some ambiguity, or at least some questions about whether there were exceptions or exemptions.
There shouldn't be ambiguity. We have a tremendous country.
And now promising to impose even more tariffs on semiconductors and chips, which are essential to power everything from cell phones to cars.
Like we did with steel, like we did with automobiles, like we did with aluminum, which are now fully on. We'll be doing that with semiconductors, with chips, and numerous other things. And that'll take place in the very near future.
The majority of Apple iPhones are assembled in China, and without an exemption to Trump's massive 145% tariff on Chinese goods, financial services firm UBS estimates the cost of a new iPhone 16 Pro Max could skyrocket by $950.
Now, that's not true, all right? The first thing, I do agree with the tariffs, but that is not true. And let me tell you why it's not true. Because Apple doesn't only manufacture iPhones inside of China. Apple has seen this a long ways away, and Apple has started to take steps to manufacture iPhones in other countries outside of China. It's one of the reasons why they started to fortify their relationship over in India. And again, they make their iPhones outside of China also. Now, it doesn't limit them from being able to make a lot of the parts and iPhones inside of China. And that's why when you open up the package, it says designed by Apple in California, but it doesn't tell you where it's manufactured. Apple manufactures iPhones all over the world, okay? They manufacture the majority of their iPhones over in China, but they've expanded to diversify to not have been impacted by what is happening today inside of tariffs. So what could possibly happen, and I'm going to go over this on the next Stock Club because I always like to bring information and insight, and I don't want y'all to just lean into random information of somebody telling you something, but they don't really know what they're talking about. What could happen is Apple will allocate the majority of what they manufacture over in China to the rest of the world, and then allocate what they're making in other countries in order to avoid the tariff exemption to the United States of America, while at the same time focusing on building plants because they've allocated hundreds of billions of dollars to have manufacturing and assembly over here in the United States of America. And this is why we listen to the conference calls. This is why we listen to the quarterly calls. This is why we understand and we actually watch Market Watch and Bloomberg, and we look at Yahoo Finance and we look at the charts. And so I am following this closely, fiercely. Anybody that's in the Patreon that was a part of the last stock club that we just did last Wednesday, and then I think we're going to do Block Club this Wednesday. Anybody that's a part of the Patreon, you know that I am keenly aware and very, very focused on studying each and every detail as far as the manufacturing process, logistics, so on and so forth. So that is not true. The iPhones will not cost $950 more. They are going to relatively hold the price or raise it slightly, but it can be manufactured outside of China because they do have manufacturing facilities, and then they can allocate a lot of what it is that they manufacture over in China to China and the rest of the world in order to try to avoid tariffs while they build inside of the United States of America. But there still needs to be pressure on these automakers, on these manufacturers, on these phone makers, on all of these devices, all of these things that we consume inside of the United States of America. There needs to be an and, not an or. You do this, and you also make sure that you bolster and start to bring jobs inside of the United States of America. Let's continue.
The president says America should no longer rely on China to manufacture those products.
We want to make our chips and semiconductors and other things in our country.
But experts warn that could take time.
China is very intertwined with our economy, and it's very hard to find easy substitutes to many of these imports.
And this morning,
Somebody said it's a good thing I don't use iPhones. Listen. Everything that's a part of this device. Okay, I'll give you an example. And again, I'm not going to deep dive into stock club level content, but I'm going to give y'all some insight. These cameras, for example, these may be made by Sony. Sony has a large contract with Apple to manufacture the cameras. Well, if anybody knows where Sony is located, Samsung, I believe that they have a large contract to manufacture the OLED displays and the screens that goes into most smartphones, including the iPhone. These iPhones, these Samsung devices, all of these different devices that you buy, and it doesn't matter whether you have an iPhone or whether you're using an Android device, they are all made in the same places by the same companies and the same contractors and the same manufacturers. So don't think that it's just an iPhone. People use an iPhone as an example to illustrate a point to give you a better understanding of how tariffs are going to work. But it doesn't mean that it's only limited to all of the parts, all of the semiconductor chips. This is why we're trying to untangle ourselves with the rest of the world. We don't want to be interdependent on other people for our own products and our own security, our own national security. It is a national security issue when you have the majority of the products that's being manufactured over in other countries. This is the thing that Trump is doing. He's undoing decades and decades and decades of neglect from politicians and manufacturers from years before. This is the importance of us forcing companies to bring jobs back to the United States of America. Not just national security, but we don't want to continue to enrich other nations thinking that they're giving us a discount, and they're not. They're not passing off the costs. They're just continuing to bolster up their finances and expedite jobs outside of the United States of America. This is why Trump is doing this. This is the whole idea behind making America great again, is because we are not doing this just for ourselves. We are doing this for our children. We're doing this for our grandchildren. We're doing it for the generations that come after us. It's not just about us. It's not about how you feel. Oh man, I don't want an iPhone. You don't even need a new one. You can't afford one if you needed one. You financing the one that you got. That's why your phone bill is so high. That's why your phone bill is so high, because you keep financing your iPhones. We're not talking about you, Willis. When will people of this culture, and this is the thing that I was talking about over the weekend, we failed. Boomers, I ain't even going to say us. Boomers have failed America. They were so selfish on focusing on what they think was best for them that they didn't make a decision that was best for everybody, understanding that they were going to benefit along with. You don't have to take 100% of the profits. You can take 75% of the profits and then make sure that you invest the other 25% back into making sure that you keep the ladder down so other people can pull themselves up. You can actually help other people get rich while you're getting rich at the same time. When I build a home, I go with all local contractors. I may spend an extra $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in the entirety of the cost of the home. And that's okay because I can afford it. And I'm still going to be super profitable. I can extend grace over to the renters. I don't have to jack it up as high as I possibly can just because all of the areas around me. Am I solidly profitable? Is it profitable for me to do this? And can I duplicate the process? Yes, I can. They can live comfortably. I don't have a whole lot of turnover. My neighbors can all benefit. The guy literally that lives next door to me, he's going to be doing some of the work in the next houses. He's building some of the decks. The person that is a parent in the taekwondo with my daughter, they going to be doing some of the wind. Like, you can help other people get rich and you can be successful at the same time. But we so greedy. We were so selfish, and it started with the politicians. It lended itself to the business owners. Ultimately, it was impacting the voters and the people that was doing the things. And that's why do you, listen, I'll give you all an example. Why do you think that there was so much money starting to be poured into elections? Kamala Harris' campaign, it probably spent way more. That was just her campaign. Had nothing to do with super PACs, had nothing to do with all. Billions upon billions of billions and billions and billions of dollars is being spent during national elections. Why do you think that is? If it's so surface level, if it's all just about an iPhone, it's all just about trade, why do you think that they are spending billions of dollars on both sides of an election? That is the truest, most capitalistic form of influencing what's happening inside of our culture. We're finally getting to the point where we can reset it. Hey man, hit the reset button. Let's go back to what it is that we did great. Let's get back to making American vehicles, get back to making American phone. Let's do America first, and then we're going to figure out what's going on with the rest of the world. That's why. Because previous generations and other people are so selfish, they so self-centered that they will sell out everybody else just to get rich on their own. They will sell out everybody else, decimate industries, cities, jobs, local municipalities, defunding schools so that they can get a cheaper swimsuit, so that you can save $72 on your car, and they not going to pass on the cost to you. You will destroy entire industries for a product that you don't even plan on buying. If you think about...
China is retaliating, halting exports of magnets critical to the assembly of American cars and other electronics, from drones to robots. As the president reveals another target.
How many of y'all bought a robot recently? How many of y'all bought a drone recently? And that's going to change the dynamics of your life daily. How many of y'all actually need, you know why we overspend and we consume? Because we got a bunch of stuff that we don't need. A bunch of stuff being shipped to us that we just got. We hoarders. That's all we are. We hoarders. Inside, we got enough of this. I want to go straight over to the Trump gaggle, press gaggle. We are hoarders. If you go through your house, we have a whole bunch of nothing. You ever been to a 50-year-old woman's house? I have. You ever been to a 50-year-old woman's house? Want me to tell you what they got in there? First thing you're going to see, fake plants. Made in China and Indonesia.